I don't think anyone expected this. One superhero just took down the Avengers. Spider-Man Brand New Day has officially become one of the biggest opening weekends in movie history. It shattered nearly every MCU opening weekend record outside of Avengers Endgame Global and proved something Marvel has known for years. Spider-Man is the face of Marvel. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Sigma Duocast, and this is the expanded Spider-Man Brand New Day review episode. So, right from the jump, spoilers. I am going to review the film how I originally wanted to. If you want to hear a spoiler-free review, go back and listen to the previous episode. It's a quick little 14-minute, 15-minute episode that I just quickly spit out my thoughts, literally after I just watched the movie. And it was like 2 a.m. when I was recording. So, yeah, I haven't even, I went back and listened to that episode and I was like, bro, what am I on right now? But hey, that's the beauty of doing these podcast things. I do it just for fun. And you know, there's audio recording. It's there. And the only thing I can do about it is deleting it. But, you know, what's the fun in that? So I'm just going to let it ride. And now we're going to do the follow-up review episode that I hinted in that episode. How many times can I say episode, right? And we're really just going to, I'm going to go a little more deep dive into the film. I did see it again. I recently saw it just yesterday in IMAX, which I think is hilarious because this movie was initially to be released on IMAX, and I love IMAX. Like, I go and watch all my movies in that format. If I can, very rarely does like the big movie that I want to see not available in that format. So it was sad. I was very sad to know that when Spider-Man came out, and even later this year, Avengers Doomsday, it won't be available for IMAX. And the reason for that is because there was two big movies that released prior from these ones. So The Odyssey has released in IMAX, which I highly recommend you do check out if you haven't already. And if you're able to, 70 millimeter format. That's actual film. I know a lot of people are like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that means. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to watch it on my phone. Whatever, dude. Like, if you're into film, cinematography, and all that stuff, go check that out. There are a few theaters in my area, Central Northern California, that actually have true 70 millimeter IMAX. I have not yet to see it. I was hoping to see it, but all the screens were sold out, and they did add more, but again, they sold out pretty quick too. So anyways, the Odyssey had exclusive rights to the IMAX theaters because IMAX is ran independently from like your traditional movie theaters. So there's like more, you know, behind the scenes agreements and things that happen. This is why later this year in December, Dune 3 has secured the rights to show the Dune film in IMAX for X amount of time, thus not allowing, I should say, Marvel, Disney to show at Doomsday in IMAX. So they're creating their Infinity Vision thing, whatever. We'll see what that's all about. But anyways, after this crazy success of Spider-Man Brand New Day on opening weekend, which, like, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. So a couple things. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. Like, he is definitively my all-time favorite superhero, followed by Batman, I would say. Really, really close. But in terms of Marvel exclusive, like, he is top tier. And I can do a whole nother episode, which I'm kind of debating on now, as to break down as to why. And I would love to find another or a couple other Spidey fans to discuss that, because this movie proves what Spider-Man means to a lot of people and around the world. Because this box office, like, I'm a big box office guy. If you guys listen to my episodes, you guys know that I love box office numbers. I don't know why. You know, ultimately, I think it gives you a consensus of, hey, if you like something, other people like it. which again, it's not really important at the end of the day. Do your own opinions about things. If you like it, great. If others don't, that's fine too, as long as you like it. But I don't know. I don't want to actually say that like box office also contributes to like popularity success. I think the reason why I'm very big into the box office, one of the quick things is that if you see something that you really like and it's being successful in the box office, it's making money, it's making its money back and all that stuff, then that generally means that they're going to be able to do more. They'll create more, they'll provide more. I mean, when you look at any entertainment media out there, whether it's video games, music, TV, movies, you name it, if it doesn't do well financially, people aren't going to make more. They'll cancel seasons, they'll cancel this, they'll not make a sequel, or they'll try to change it. They'll reboot. They say, oh my God, this didn't do so well. Let's go ahead and reboot it because clearly this isn't working. So seeing that this movie is doing phenomenal in the box office beyond anybody's expectation, I don't think anyone on God's green earth expected this movie to perform the way it's performing right now, is really, really good sign, because not only obviously we're going to get the inevitable next Spider-Man movie, and hopefully Tom Holland takes his words back about not wanting to, pretty much seeing an end to the films. Like, I'm going to be done playing Spider-Man. Nah, dude, you're going to be, as Deadpool said to Wolverine, you're going to be doing this until you're 90. But no, I think we're going to have some pretty cool future stuff there. And then also it shows like, hey, this film captures everything of the Spidey film, and I'll go into that in my next segment. I just wanted to quickly just touch base on the whole popularity of Spider-Man and what he means to a lot of people. And this movie is that. Like, this movie has so much of what Peter Parker is, what Stan Lee and Steve Ditko originally wanted to create with Peter Parker, where he's just an average teenager, normal, relatable dude that anybody can relate to, and has the same problems, but at the same time, has this alter ego of Spider-Man, superpowers and all this. Well, in this film, I feel the alter ego is more Peter Parker. And so it's very interesting. And again, Spider-Man he's very likable. And I think Tom Holland does a great job bringing that. And not only as the actor, but I hope like everything we've seen of this guy outside of public space, like it's genuine. And because he just seems like a real life Peter Parker, where he's just humble and all that good stuff. So anyways, I just think it's great. I think I'm debating if I want to do another episode like that, where we'll just break down Spider-Man's popularity, fandom, and what he means to people. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff there. So let's go into the film review. I do want to try and keep this episode tight, but we'll see how it goes. I have a couple outlined. Well, I have an outline with a couple talking points here. I'm going to do my best to follow through with it. But as you guys know, in Sigma Duocast, it's authentic conversations. We just shoot from the hip. I got the outline. That's about as far as I go. And just give me some notes to kind of remember what I want to talk about. And everything's going to be from the old noggin. So we'll see how this goes. So I'm not really going to touch into like people's theories, complaints, this and that. I might dive into a couple. I'm just going to give you more my organic thoughts of the film as a Spider-Man fan. Again, expanded from the previous episode, just with a lot of spoilers. So one last time, in case you didn't hear it, there will be spoilers in this podcast or this episode in regards to the Spider-Man Brand New Day film. So let's go into our first segment that I wanted to talk about. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's what kind of Spider-Man movie is this? Because to me, this movie feels a lot like a sequel, a reboot, an origin story, a soft remake, ultimately a beginning. And it works so well. So in case you don't know, Marvel has had Tom Holland in the MCU. Tom Holland has portrayed Spider-Man. This is now 7 times. So we have seen Spider-Man 7 times, Tom Holland, in the MCU. Now, we first saw him in Captain America Civil War. That was his introduction. They quick bypassed the origin story, the whole 9 yards. Tony Stark recruits him. That's the first time we get him. And he's young. He's a teenager, genuine teenager. He's been doing this for 10 years, guys. That's crazy to think about. Tom Holland is now 30, and he was like 20. I think he was 19, but then he was like 20, 21 when they really got him going with these films. But anyways, so Captain America Civil War, his first appearance, Tom Holland Spider-Man. We got the first take. Great. Then we got Homecoming, which was his first standalone movie, which kind of expand on that. We kind of got a little more of just him growing. He was a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so to speak, with his suit, but then he got Stark Tech, and he's starting to grow on these responsibilities of trying to be a superhero, but thinking big time. He wants to be an Avenger, but needs to realize that you got to like cool your jets, bro. Take your time. Can't just be an Avenger just like that. Just because you went toe-to-toe with Cap doesn't make you an Avenger. Which, I mean, he stood his ground. And Winter Soldier and Captain Falcon. Jesus, I always say that. Falcon. Who else did he fight in Civil War? I don't think he went toe-to-toe with everybody. Like, I know he didn't fight Black Panther. Anyways, so you got Homecoming. After Homecoming, we then jump to Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War. And again, he's just continuing that, learning that mentorship. He's Robin to Iron Man. You know, well, Robin is the Batman. That's kind of what he is so again, we still haven't gotten Spider-Man. This is just a kid with spider powers, and he's still doing his thing. After that, we get the blip, but he comes back in Avengers Endgame, and he is a part of the big battle at the end of Endgame there. You know, going through a lot there. It's kind of asking a lot. After that, we get Far From Home, and he's dealing with the loss of Tony Stark. Again, it wasn't his fault. So this is his first loss that he experienced, but it's not his fault, right? It's you know, Tony sacrificed himself to save everyone. So, but he's learning about trusting people. He doesn't want to be a hero, this and this. He wants to be Peter Parker more than anything. Like this whole, what you'll learn in these movies is that at first he's like, I want to be Spider-Man. I want to be an Avenger. But then it's like, I want to be Peter Parker. He's like, I'm trying to figure out this duality. How do I do both? So then after Far From Home, we get No Way Home, which is probably the biggest entry, it's like part of the origin story for Spider-Man. Like this is where we're starting to get into the traditional origin story of Spider-Man. This is the first. No Way Home was like the beginning of everything, in my opinion. Because at the end of Far From Home, he gets his identity exposed by Mysterio. So now in No Way Home, he's experiencing what that would look like if everybody knew who Peter Parker was, or who Spider-Man was, which is Peter Parker. So now he's trying to balance these two. Now he's understanding the importance of keeping the mask on, not just willingly showing who you are. Because he's understanding that all the people you love, if they know who you really are, who your identity is, they're all in danger no matter what. And this is something that all Peter Parkers before, whether it's Andrew Garfield, whether it was Tobey Maguire, whether it's Miles Morales, whether it's the comics, the cartoons, they understood that like kind of right away. So it's interesting to see this growth of Spider-Man, because again, and Holland started off, he wanted to be an Avenger. He wanted all this like glory. He wanted the next mission. He wanted to be. So I think it's interesting how they've built all that, and he got to live it. He got to be a part of that. Infinity War, he got to do that. You know, he was supposed to be on the bus, but no, he went to go see what's going on, and that's when he jumps in with Iron Man and says, "Stay here." Nope. What does he do? He goes on the ship in outer space. You know, he wanted all that. But what did it lead to? It lead to his identity being exposed, and an understanding that people that you care about, once they know who you are, can be in danger. And then you get the ultimate, like, Peter Parker. I forgot what it was called. Again, right from the hip, but there's the thing that they call in Spider-Man. Let me give me a quick second. I'm going to try to figure this out. What the hell is it called again? oh God, what is it called? Oh, canon event. I think that's what the Spider-Man Across the Universe or Into the Spider-Verse kind of explained, the canon events. It's basically a moment that they cannot change. It has to happen, you know. And so we've always thought in the MCU that Uncle Ben's death was always correlated with Peter changing and becoming Spider-Man and being responsible, which we don't get that. I mean, we don't really get Uncle Ben whatsoever in the MCU. We just know he passed away, and that's that. But Aunt May in the MCU becomes that. So in No Way Home, we get that moment where she dies and she gives him the whole, with great power comes great responsibility, which again, that's saying that it comes from generally Uncle Ben, but in this case, Aunt May in the MCU, these are canon events that have to happen. And we finally get it in Tom Holland's 6th appearance as Spider-Man, which then leads, to him understanding that in order for people to be safe, in order to save the world, I got to sacrifice Peter Parker. I got to erase everyone's, with Doctor Strange, do the spell to eliminate his memory, which is critical, which leads us to Brand New Day, which has probably one of my favorite Marvel Studios title card openings, where it shows outside of Black Panther T'Challa, when you see all of Chadwick Boseman's montage. I thought that was probably my favorite, right next to this one now, where you're seeing in that little opening where it says Marvel Studios, you get a very quick, 20 seconds of letting you know what happened from the end of No Way Home, forget Peter Parker, and then you're seeing, clips of scenes from the previous films, but Peter Parker's disappearing. It's MJ and Peter, they're talking, all of a sudden he just disappears, so she's talking to nobody. Same thing with Ned or whatever. It was very brilliant. Very, very brilliant. So, again, we spent 6 appearances, 3 solo films, and 3, the guest films, I guess you can say, where he appeared. And we have yet to really get Spider-Man, at all. So they're doing the 7th movie. How do you do that? Where do you go from here? And I'm curious that there was rumor, Tom Holland had said, and there was rumors the first version of this movie, Tom hated it. And it had more to do with the multiverse, things of that nature. I don't know. I can't really think of what the direction was, but it was just not a good story, apparently, which is good, because they went back and they said, hey, you know what? Let's make this a Spider-Man story. Just straight up Spider-Man. We don't got to do anything crazy with villains. We don't got to do anything. Just how is the curious thing after watching No Way Home is, how does Peter continue as Peter Parker, let alone Spider-Man? And this movie gives us the answer. So again, I feel this movie is a sequel. It's also a reboot. It's also an origin story, a soft remake, and a beginning. So the next thing I'm talking about is what Peter finally becomes Spider-Man. I'll kind of address what I mean by sequel, reboot, origin story, and all that, and soft remake. Because in this movie, this Spider-Man story, traditional Spider-Man stories, it's always Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, and then he tries Spider-Man, and he tries to become Peter Parker again. So he always abandons the Spider-Man persona. He's always like, you know what, Spider-Man no more. I just want to be Peter. That's it. Well, in this movie, it flips that. Because Peter Parker's gone, he's like, there's no use to being Peter Parker. There's no point, because nobody knows who Peter Parker is, so why even bother? I'm just going to be Spider-Man the entire time. And I'll tell you, this is probably one of the first superhero movies where the main actor is in the suit, in this case wearing a mask, almost the entirety of the film. Actually, no, I take that back, because Deadpool does that pretty good too. And I think that's probably something they learned. It's if we can do it with Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds in them, why not do it with him? Because every time you see a movie like Batman or anything, they always find a way to, we got to take the mask off. Got to take the mask. Like, just stay in the mask, dude. Like, we want to see that. And if you look at the old Spider-Man movies, they always found a way to take the mask off. So like you have Spider-Man for like a couple of the swinging sessions, the action fights, and then that's it. And then when he's not, let's take the mask off. So, and I love that. I love keeping him in character. It really keeps the illusion going. And when he's interacting with other characters, like he has his mask on the entire time. So the illusion of Spider-Man is there. And it really, I think they do a really good job of creating the separation of when Peter is Peter and when Spider-Man is Spider-Man. And I think this is one of those rare movies that does that really well. Like, you really get the sense of the duality of this character, you know, because when he's full suited, man, it's so organic, it's so genuine. Like, it's Spider-Man, like the mannerisms, the speech, everything. But then when he's Peter, it's like you can see that, like, depression, loneliness, you know, just kind of trying to grind through the day, make it another day. Like, you actually see that. And I love that. I love the contrasts that they do there. It's I don't know. It's very, very interesting. And so throughout the movie, you discover that he's evolving because he's suppressing the persona of Peter Parker, and he's heavily focused on Spider-Man. They really get into the arachnid DNA strand thing. And I will say this. Let me say this real quick. We'll definitely talk about it more. Not only is this an origin story for Peter, Spider-Man, it's an origin story for not only the supposed villain Jean Grey, but X-Men in general, because we all know that the next Marvel cinematic phase, saga, is going to be the X-Men, the mutant saga. Like, that's the direction. After Doomsday, Secret Wars, that's where Marvel's going, the MCU. It's going to be all that. And, you know, we've already gotten like our first confirmed mutant with Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. I think that was the first, what do you call it? I think that was the first actual MCU property that mentions the word mutant. Because they couldn't do it up until, because Fox still owned all those rights. But now that they own Fox, and that's why we're getting a lot of X-Men stuff. But we do know that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, they were the first mutants technically in the MCU, but they didn't call them that. They call them enhanced individuals, which they continue that whole enhanced individual verbiage in Brand New Day when Spider-Man goes to the damage control and he's going through a little sensor and they're saying enhance, whatever, you know, Captain calls them that, enhanced individual on the field in Age of Ultron. So I think now they're going to finally start shifting to mutants. Not that Peter Parker's a mutant, because the whole idea of a mutant is that you are born with a genetic, you know, anomaly that gives you some form of power. Generally, you're pretty much good as a kid, but then at some point it starts to show, or it shows right away. But for the most part, most stories, it's like they start as a kid and everything's fine, and then once they start getting into the teen era, like their powers or stuff starts to show, and then it takes time for them to really like get their main potential, which we see in Jean Grey. Like, this is what, for those that are non-fans or know about the X-Men, like, you got to understand, this is what this whole film was. It was the story origin of a mutant that we're seeing, because we're going to have this similar story with a lot of other characters soon to come with the X-Men. So that's why, like, this was such a I think it was a perfect way to do that. We didn't need we'll talk about the villain a little bit, but we didn't need that villain. So anyways, there we go again. I'm just getting ahead of myself. So again, it's a origin story for both, because there's a lot that happens in this film that is going to go with the mutants. Like, we're talking about genetics now. We're talking about genetic suppression. We're talking about the inhibitor chip that Spider-Man made to suppress that. We have obviously Jean Grey. Like, there's so much going on. The inhibitor chip is going to be super critical in future installments of the films. And even with Bruce Banner asking him that moral question of like, you know, how do you choose? Like, you know, it's could be a good thing, but it's also a very dangerous thing. And if you know the X-Men, like they have inhibitor things now to suppress. Now they've had it where they can suppress powers. We've seen it already in the MCU, but we don't know if it's at the level of what Peter made, where it's literally targeting specific genes. Because they did have, at the end of Civil War, Scarlet Witch in prison where she had a thing around her neck. Those inhibitor neck things, I mean, heavily in Deadpool, heavily in the X-Men Fox series. Like you see all that. That's how they suppress the mutants and pretty much create some form of genocide in the X-Men lore. And so we kind of saw it in the MCU, but we don't really know what that was. What we do know now is that Peter created a definitive, let alone small, convenient inhibitor chip. So best believe that whole thing is going to be huge going forward in the MCU. The main guy for duty, I forgot his name, Mexner or whatever his name is, he disappeared at the end. I'm sure he will play a big role eventually. I don't know if he'll become the one that hates mutants or he's just trying to harness their power. I can't remember. He is a character in the comics. I can't really think of him right now, but I'm trying to think of a similar character. Probably Stryker in the Fox movies. If you've only watched the movies of Marvel and not read the comic books, he would probably be the closest one where he wants to, or even not even him. The hell's his name? He was in Days of Future Past, where he wanted to, the little short guy. I forgot his damn name. But he wanted to basically capture these experiments on the mutants because he wanted to create his Sentinels that are adaptable to all the Marvel guys. What the hell's his name? I'm getting upset now. Bolivar Trask. There we go. Trask Industries. So he could work with them to find out how to experiment them and suppress. Like there's so much stuff. Like I'm getting ahead of myself on this, but there's so much stuff that's going to be beyond X-Men. So that's just one thing to think about with this movie is realize that this movie is, everyone talks about, oh, there's no build up to the next Marvel movie. There's no build up to Doomsday. There's no build up to this. There's no build up to that. This is a huge build up. Like this movie, Brand New Day, is a huge, huge build up to the future of the MCU and the future of mutants and X-Men. So anyways, with that, what I want to focus now with Spider-Man is like we get, the reason I say origin story is because we already got the great responsibility, but through the genetics with the arachnid taking over and like evolving, we're getting like this evolution of him becoming Spider-Man. This is why I say it's like a reboot. It's obviously continuing from last ones, but they're rebooting a little bit. So now they're changing Spider-Man's powers. We're now seeing that he's faster. He's stronger. He has organic webs. Which I think is hilarious how they did that in the film. When he's like disgusted by it and all this, but then he also acknowledges, you know, Peter too, referencing Toby's Spider-Man, like, oh, he's had it. And even like, and when I say soft remake, this is where I say the soft remake is that they heavily took stuff from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I just watched the first Spider-Man movie 2 days ago, and they take stuff from it, from his like, again, the organic web. And when Toby's Spider-Man gets it, he's like trying to figure, he's like, fly. He's like, go web, go. He doesn't know how to shoot the web. And then he figures out, oh, you got to press here. And in No Way Home, there's a scene where they talk about that, all three of them, before the big fight. And they're like, how do you know how to do that? Like, how can you command it? Like, he's like, I just do it. Like, I'm at the point where it's like, I'm synced up. It's just natural. Like, it's like breathing. I just do it. And I think it's funny when you take that context and you see the Spider-Man movie context when he first got his powers, and now he sees Holland's with it, and he's like, he doesn't know how to use. He's like, how do I shoot? He's like trying to use his normal, like he's web shooters, like it doesn't work. This to the point where he has to think about it because Peter too, Toby already told the group in No Way Home that he doesn't think about it anymore. Like it's very organic now, and so he's like, shoot, stop, shoot, stop. And you hear him. It's so funny. You start hearing him. But if you notice, towards the end of the movie, once he finally takes in, I'm going to be Spider-Man, like I'm going to accept this evolution, he's not calling it out anymore. He's just doing it naturally. He's able to shoot his webs, by thought or on command or however you want to call it. So I thought that was funny. That was like, again, remake, homage, whatever to that. The other part is when he finally takes in that whole scene on the island, where he's like finally accepts being Spider-Man and Peter Parker. You know, they're throwing the ninja stars, the hand, right? And it's moving slow, and you see him like they show that side view with the ninja stars in front of you, and he's just looking left and right, like whoa, like he's fast. They did the same thing in Raimi. When Flash was coming to punch him, his Spidey sense went off, and he went to punch him. He threw the punch, and it was all slow, and then you see Peter just moving at a faster speed than it. Boom, there it is. There. What else? There was a couple other things. Him swinging when he finally starts to swing, when they play the Bad Bunny music to it. That's how Spider-Man was when he first officially started swinging after the fight with the wrestler, where he steals the money and he lets the bad guy go, and he kills Uncle Ben, and he's like trying to solve it's like swinging for the first time. So there's a lot of parallels, there's a lot of homage, but this is why I say it's a soft remake, because they low key remade these scenes for today audience, without erasing or doing a 1-to-1 remake of, the past. So anyways, I've gone on. I love this. I love this whole way that they're doing it. They paid a lot of homage to the Raimi, to the Webb, Raimi trilogy with Tobey, the Webb trilogy with Andrew Garfield. I mean, Raimi brought in the organic Webb, more physically stronger, discovering his powers, Peter growing into Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man brought the agility, they brought the movement, the emotional maturity, and obviously the suit influence, especially in Spider-Man 2, amazing Spider-Man 2. And then the other big set of influence that I truly, truly love, and I said this in the previous one, is the Insomniac Studios Marvel Spider-Man that they made for PlayStation 4 and 5. I feel that was easily the biggest influence they took in, because if you've played those games, that's like the definitive like Spider-Man game experience, you name it. They did such a good job in the first one with Peter's story, and he's already been Spider-Man for a while, but also kind of giving us like fillers of the past, having all these different rogues and villains, the Sinister Six, and then you had the Miles Morales and how he played mentorship to Miles, and then you have Spider-Man 2 where they're both playing. So I feel, honestly, because of the influence this film had, and if the director, Destin, is going to be the director for this new trilogy, I honestly believe this is the direction they're going. I think we're going to get, and they've already said that Miles will be coming after Secret Wars, which Doomsday's next, then Secret Wars, and then whatever movies come after. So if they do 2 more Spider-Man movies, they're gonna be after Secret Wars regardless. So there's already planned for Miles to come in, which I can see them bringing him or hinting to him a lot more in the second Spider-Man movie, and then full circle on that third one, and then probably like Tom Holland passing the torch. Either hopefully they just pass the torch and he moves on, he's still alive, or they might go the Ultimate Comics way where Spider-Man dies, he sacrifices himself, and then basically all that's left is Miles to take over. So, but that's kind of how the games are, where Peter doesn't die, he's just continuing. So we'll see where they go. I think that's the direction, but the Insomniac games, you can tell like the movement, the swinging, the wall crawling, the gadgets, the suit, the AI, Peter being engineer, really capturing Peter's genius of how he's able to craft all these things and make, I mean, it's literally the game. And so this film is like the greatest hits of all media Spider-Man that's been out, from the trilogy of Raimi's films to the duology, the duo films that Webb made. And then obviously what Insomniac Games has done, and then everything else in between, whether it's the Spider-Verse, the comics, the cartoons, you name it. Like, this is just everything that people know of. And this is why it's doing so well. And this is why for this film, the villain wasn't, there wasn't no need for like a major villain, because now that we officially have the right Peter Parker, the right Spider-Man, the right state of mind, and he's at a street level doing his thing, we can kind of expand on that. So, there isn't a villain, but I don't fully think that's true. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, the villain can be, essentially Spider-Man's world, everything that's going on, everything that he's dealing with personally, internally, and then externally with certain crime groups and just everything he knows, because he knows everything from Civil War on. He knows all that. He remembers that, and nobody does that. Nobody remembers that. I mean, the fact that when him and MJ talk and she's like, I don't remember any of that. Like that scene was crazy, because it's gut wrenching. Imagine having all these memories and someone telling you, and that you spent a good chunk of it with somebody, and then they tell you, genuinely do not remember any of that. Amnesia, things of that nature that happens in real life. Like that's hard to deal with, So you have that going on. Damage Control, I feel, has always been a villain in the Spider-Man films. They've been in there since the first Homecoming till now. And they've always been in some shape or form like a very antagonistic, government's central thing. And we'll see what it evolves to now. They were friendly at first, but now they learned the secrets in this film. So we'll see what that leads to. Jean, I'll talk a little bit more about her later, but she wasn't evil. She was just confused, searching. Like, there's more to it. Scorpion was cool. I think there's more for him down the road. I thought it was great that they brought him back and we got to see a little more. I think of all the villains, because they showed a variety of rogues in this film, with Tombstone and Tarantula, Boomerang, Nimrod, I think was the other one. So there was a couple, and then there's potential storylines that they can build up on, because how he's disrupting a lot of like these gangs and agencies. Like, we can see them potentially figure out how they can involve Kingpin into the films, because I guess there potentially some issues in terms of rights and stuff like that. But if we can bring Kingpin in there, and then you have Tombstone, and then all these, one of my personal favorites, since they're heavily influenced by the game, Mr. Negative would be a cool one. But see, he worked really well with Aunt May, with Feast, and since Aunt May's not around, I don't know if that emotional story can still happen there. So we'll see what that looks like if they bring that character. But there's so much in the rogues gallery of Spider-Man. And I just love that we finally got some comic book accurate villains, even though they're in there for like a quick second, just as a montage, which they did for Fantastic Four as well. And it was fine there as well. But I think it's great because they're quickly establishing the world of what Spider-Man's world looks like with these villains. And I mean, he has a big rogues gallery. So I think the focus of this movie was heavily on Peter and Spider-Man to create, to reboot, remake, however we want to say it. Hey, this is Spider-Man now. We have the real true Spider-Man that everyone's been wanting, that everyone knows. We have it in this film. Here he is. On top of that, hey, we had a obligation to backdoor origin story, the X-Men and Jean Grey. This is a great setup that we can do for future stories, but let's do it in a way that makes sense to benefit Peter and Spider-Man's growth as a character. And they did that. So the whole villain argument, there's no villain, it's fine. It was really not necessary. I will say that the thing about villains, Spider-Man's villains, just like Jean Grey, how we get it in this film briefly, all of Spider-Man's villains, there's an emotional connection, and they get a proper, like the Raimi films did a great job of building out these villains, telling their stories, and somehow having a great emotional connection to Peter or Spider-Man, whichever one, on how it really makes the things feel a little more personal, a little more at stake. Where all we've gotten so far in these Marvel MCU films, like none of these villains have been that really. I think the only closest relatable villain that what do you call it? Tom Holland Spider-Man had was Vulture. And it wasn't initially at first, is because he was trying to be Spider-Man, and then he gets that connection by, you know, that big twist that Vulture is the father to I forgot her freaking name. But anyways, I had her in my head, and then I was trying to reserve that thought, and then by the time I finally got to when I wanted to speak, it disappeared. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but that just happened. Anyways, so that was like the closest I think we got, because Mysterio, he was still full of himself. He just, you know, it felt very Scooby-Doo-ish. You know, it's like, I got my own agenda going. Oh, here's these meddling kids. Here's this meddling Spider-Man getting into my way, trying to stop my plans. That's literally how technically Vulture and Mysterio felt more than anything. I think that's why I think I find the joke on No Way Home where he's like, Scooby-Doo this shit from Doctor Strange is hilarious, because if you think of his other villains, that's pretty much what it was. It was a Scooby-Doo. He's just, you meddling kids. So, anyways. So, yeah, that's great. That's good, man. Next thing, I want to talk about Frank Castle real quick. The Punisher, John Bernthal, phenomenal work. He's I love him as an actor. He's so great. I've liked him ever since The Walking Dead. Everything he's done since has been great. He can play a really good asshole. He can play a really good empathetic person. He can have that duality of doing both, being an asshole and being empathetic at the same time. So I think he's phenomenal. I love a lot of films that he's in. I said it in the original review that, you know, John Bernthal and Tom Holland, they helped each other do their audition tapes when they were filming The Pilgrimage, which is a good movie. You guys should check that out. Also watched Hot Ones with John Bernthal and Tom Holland on YouTube. That was a fantastic episode. And if you're curious on what a rated R Spider-Man and Punisher would look like in terms of like dialogue, go watch that Hot Ones YouTube episode, because there's no holding back. And I swear to God, like, I would love to see that, but obviously they won't, because Spider-Man's so universal with kids and stuff like that. So the question was always like, he's such a violent character, such a ruthless person. How can they bring him into a PG-13 film? I think they did a good job. I mean, couldn't really drop F-bombs. I was hoping they would at least drop one, but the one time he was about to say it, Spidey webbed his mouth, which again, that's kind of like, it's funny because of the character, and we know about how he is and Spider-Man, and knowing that it's PG-13, like, it's not like it doesn't feel like a cop out. It just feels like a funny internal joke. Like, yeah, they weren't going to let you say that, and it's Spider-Man that prevents him. I don't know. It's great. I like it. He does say shit a lot. That was his go-to word, because in PG-13s, shit is not a bad word, or as severe as saying fuck. Pardon my French. So you can only say the F word one time in a PG-13 film. Although I've seen a couple movies get away with two, which is interesting. Anyways, I think they kept him great. He wasn't there for fan service. He really helped progress the story. I love that they, because 4 years has passed since No Way Home till then, and at some point they've crossed paths numerous times. They know each other. I mean, he knows him on a first name basis. I mean, Frank doesn't know who he is up until the end of the movie. He learns that he's Peter Parker and sees his face and everything. Everybody wants to know what happened on Staten Island. So that is the new Avengers, when they say, what is it? When Hawkeye and Black Widow, they're talking about, it wasn't Budapest. It was, it was Budapest. Was it Budapest? No, I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was. I haven't seen Avengers in a long time. But you're curious what happened between then. We now have that again with Frank and Peter. So I'm hoping we see more of them. These guys are just they're genuine. Like, their chemistry is extremely genuine. Big brother, little brother feels like, their real life friendship translates on scenes to film and how they interact, while, John keeping the persona of Frank Castle and stuff, and it's great. Everyone tries to say like, oh, I made him soft. Like, no, dude. Like, you got to realize like this, even though he wasn't majority of the film, this also helps progress Frank's story. If you watch the One Last Kill special on Disney Plus, where it's like extremely violent, mind you, like that was like the overcoming of like him finally getting through like his demons, so to speak, because he's always going to have them. But then when he was a family man, and in one of the first season, I don't know if they did one or two. I think they did 2 seasons of The Punisher. The first season of The Punisher, when it was originally on Netflix, like he protected somebody and he cared for them. Like, so again, he has the empathy, and he views Spider-Man as a kid, like in his mid-20s, early mid-20s. No, I guess it would be mid-20s, because 4 years have passed high school. Yeah. So like he sees him as a kid, and again, there's that big brother, little brother stuff. So everything worked well. It was still in line of character of the Punisher, even though they never once named him, called him that in Brand New Day. So I think it was great. Jean Grey, I absolutely love the actress they chose, Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, to be Jean Grey. Again, this was a origin story for Jean. We learn about her. We discover that she had a sister, so now we have her motive. Her powers awakening. There's that emotional trauma. Pete ends up saving her. Jean saves Peter. Like it's very, very interesting how they went about this. They did such a good job. And again, the way they did her origin story, because we know she's going to become an X-Men and a hero. The way they introduce her and the connection they had, like, I hope Marvel takes notes when they do real villains down the road. Like, that's how we need the villains to be. We semi need to be, the villains need to be semi-relatable in some shape or form. And that's what Raimi did very, very well with Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus as 2 iconic characters. But, with Green Goblin and the Raimi verse, we saw, you have this CEO guy who's kind of a dick to his kid. To some people that's relatable. And, he's trying to do his business. He built it from the ground up. It's his whole baby, sacrificed so much. And then the corporate one, or the board want to get rid of him. And he's being screwed. Like, nobody wants to work with him like this. And so he figures that dark side of him to have revenge and leads him to do the things he does. Same thing with Doc Ock. Doc Ock was not a bad guy. He just got semi-corrupted by the inhibitor that he got, which, mind you, too, side note, the inhibitor, I thought it was fantastic how they brought that full circle with No Way Home, because that's how Peter got the knowledge on how to create the inhibitor chip, is from No Way Home, is from Dr. Octopus from the Spideyverse. Again, Raimi's Spider-Man is heavily influenced all over this movie, along with Insomniac and Garfield's Spider-Man. So I just love that. I love that. But anyways, so, he was just trying to have the power of the sun in his hands in Spider-Man 2, and it goes sideways. He loses his love, and she dies, and then the inhibitor breaks, and then the arms start to corrupt him. And even when he's like, I'll rebuild in this, and they're telling him, he's like, no, I'm not a criminal, this and this. And they convince him to do otherwise. And so again, he wasn't a bad person. He was just obsessed with his work and semi-corrupted persuade. And those are why Spider-Man villains are so awesome, is because at the end of the day, they are relatable in some shape or form. So I hope that future villains, not only for Spider-Man, but in the MCU, really, because I think that's one of the things I'll say about the MCU as a whole. They do a poor job, is their villains. They give you enough motive, and then that's it. But they don't really make you give a shit about the villains. So they're kind of just throwaways. And some villains are just wasted, like tremendously wasted. And others are just, So again, I think the way they went about Jean was great. We now have a redemption arc for her in the X-Men films. We now have like a lot more at stake because we got to see we won't just get the whole like, oh, I was a bad person at one point, or I did some things that are unspeakable and this and that. No, we got to see it. We got to see and very intimate. Like when she controls MJ and does that whole thing with Peter, like holy crap, that was crazy. That was intense. Like that was very unforgivable. Trying to pretend like she remembers everything and all. Oh my god, dude, that scene was dope. So we now like are able. We've seen it. We've seen her power. We've seen how she can be manipulated. Like we see when she's driven for answers, for the truth. Like so when we see her again in the X-Men movies, you're gonna be like, oh, we know. We seen what you've done now, girl. Don't trust this one. But I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal. I think this was a great choice for them to have to make you believe it was the villain of the film, but in reality, it was just a fellow peer that needed help, and they both helped each other. And I love at the very end when Peter sacrificed, like everything she needed, what everything that Peter needed after Aunt May died from the console that he got from the other Peters and everything's going through, like she needed the same thing in a sense, which she gets. And at the end, even when Peter like sacrifices himself for her, which I think was like the biggest thing, it's like she then kept him alive long enough to get to the hospital to get him recovered. So I think that was fantastic. It was like literally the beginning of her redemption arc right there. So that was good. I think Jean Grey was fantastic. I have no issues with that, and I just can't wait to see what the future brings. I love that Bruce Banner was in this film. He had just a small little part in a sense in terms of giving him guidance on the whole inhibitor chip thing and DNA. It was very refreshing to see Bruce Banner and then Hulk. I'm not too big of a fan of the whole Smart Hulk thing. I like the Incredible Hulk. The Universal Studios still did Hulk perfect in the first MCU or second MCU film, but the first version of Incredible Hulk, perfect, fantastic. And we kind of got a taste of that again because we haven't seen that Hulk in quite some time. So it was really cool to see that, and I absolutely loved it. So hopefully we get more of that. Hopefully we see what the future brings there. But I think again the progression that we saw there on how he helped influence Peter's story and whatnot was great. Couple small things that I loved, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here. The suit. I absolutely love the suit. It pays homage to Raimi and like I've been saying all the episode, it pays homage to everybody. Insomniac Games, Raimi, Garfield. I think Garfield mainly. I think it's great. I love seeing that it was a practical costume finally again, because a lot of the MCU films, it was always Peter or Tom Holland in a mocap suit, and you can tell, like it's so obvious, like the No Way Home, or not No Way Home, but the Homecoming suits, like so especially when he had his iron suit, like it's just so obvious and it just doesn't look good. And I love the way it just looks so natural. Like you can see the creases in the suit. You can see the like his head, like you can see the ears kind of bulging. Like it's not like not the traditional perfect face head shell or whatever you want to call it. It was just so organic. It was so wonderful. Like it was just perfect. And I love that it kept pieces from all the suits throughout. I like that he still had his AI. We get to see inside his mask briefly, and then even when they do the zoom up on his eye when he's diving down the side of a skyscraper, like you could even see the HUD a little bit on the screen, like reflecting off his eye, and then like on one of his lenses, you see the actual HUD. I thought that was fantastic. I was like, dude. And on top of that, like when you have the outer face close-ups, like you can actually see his eyes, like the white is semi-transparent to allow him to be able to see, where it's not like, a solid white like in most films. Like, I don't know, dude, it's great. And then the mechanical, so we can see the expression still. Like, it was very organic way of doing it, because, like, you know, Deadpool brought the facial expressions, but we know it was just because they're aware that it's a, you know, comic book movie, where here it's like we want to do the same thing, but we also want to make it practical, and so they do. And I think it's just great, man. I love the visuals. I love the photography. The web swinging was amazing. Again, very Andrew Garfield and Insomniac games. All the movements that they do, it's just fantastic. I'm glad that they finally put some IMAX out there, because when I saw it the second time on IMAX, so much better. It looked amazing. I saw it in DFX the first time, which was good. It was good. Sound, everything, picture clarity, but nothing beats IMAX. The big screen, and I don't know. Music was phenomenal. I absolutely love the Tame Impala scene where they play Loser. Oh, chef's kiss, man. That was just a wonderful, wonderful choice. The pacing of the film was great. It's kind of long movie, almost 2.5 hours, but it's well paced. I feel a lot of scenes were, there wasn't a wasted scene, if that makes sense. Like, every scene had a purpose to drive the story forward, and it worked well. Like, the fluidity, the pacing was just great. I don't know. It just felt really, really great. So, I mean, again, this film is doing phenomenal in the box office, and it's because I feel at this point right now, it is the definitive Spider-Man film that captures the best of everything that we've seen out there. So, where do we go from here? So, the post-credit scene showed the little spider tracker that Ned created. Hey, there's a Spider-Man sighting here. And then it just like pans out while still acknowledging. This is where a lot of people keep saying, well, it's Peter in space. It's Peter in space. And if you've listened to my Doomsday episode, so if you go back and listen to my Doomsday episode, go check it out. If not, either way, I'm going to talk a little bit about my speculation of what that is. So Tom Holland, as of right now, is not confirmed for Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. He is confirmed for Avengers Secret Wars, where I'm hoping a lot of people are led to believe where he'll finally interact with Venom and he'll finally get the symbiote suit. He'll finally get the black suit, which I hope then leads to the next Spider-Man movie, which is going to be extremely interesting. And if that's the case, I genuinely cannot wait. So we know he's going to be in Secret Wars. We know he's not, as of right now, he's not in Doomsday. So at the end of the movie, we see a blip of showing Spider-Man sighting in New York on Queens or whatever. And then it pans off to the side, and we see another one appear in outer space, just in the middle of nowhere. Now, the rumor is that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is going to be in Doomsday. As a matter of fact, it's going to open up to the Raimi universe being destroyed. It's going to be Tobey Maguire in the iron suit, the classic red and gold iron suit, with the help of Doc Ock, the now reformed Doc Ock, who's had experience with the nanotech, Stark nanotech from No Way Home. Them two end up becoming, because he's now cured, them two work together to create the new iron suit and all this stuff. So they're working side by side. But he also, the rumor is that he gets he recruits some of the other villains, creating his own like mini team up of like, not the Sinister Six, but a team up. And they're going up against Deadpool, Wolverine, and the TVA, because that they don't know if they're bad guys or not, but they just know that their universe is coming to an end, so to speak. And somehow, because we also hear rumors that in Secret Wars, Deadpool, Loki, Wolverine, Toby, they create a team in the Secret Wars like film. Again, this is all speculation, rumors, and everything, so don't take anything on any of this with a grain of salt, right? This is just buildup that we're getting. So I think, all that being said, I think that post-credit scene in Spider-Man, it's not necessarily referencing Tom Holland Spider-Man. I think it's referencing Tobey. Because the rumor further goes that Tobey does get saved, and he is on the ship with the Fantastic Four. There's even people looking at the trailer of Doomsday Now where there's gaps in between certain people, where Dr. Doom recruits, obviously, Captain America, and you guys will learn more about that and the film comes out, and Tobey Spider-Man and this and that, because he has experience now or whatever, and he's actually on that ship with the Fantastic Four coming into Earth. That's why he appears in the middle of nowhere. It's like he doesn't appear on a planet or anything. It's just a new icon pops up. Why would it be in the middle of space? Because he's on a ship. And so that's that. That's all I'll say about that. So, and again, it says Spider-Man will return. They didn't, they're not clear. At this point, we know there's at least 3 out there in the MCU films. So anyways, that's my speculation on the post-credit scene, is that Tobey Spider-Man is on the Fantastic Four ship. He will be in Doomsday. Tom Holland Spider-Man will appear in Secret Wars. He might even appear at the very end of Doomsday, maybe in the post-credit scene, but we'll see him in Secret Wars. So I may be 1,000% wrong. But that's what some of the stuff out there is leaking around, and honestly, a lot of that kind of makes sense and sounds interesting. So we'll see what happens. With all that being said, I'm actually more and more curious and interested and excited for Spider-Man, I guess Spider-Man 5, to see what that looks like, because we want more. We could have more villains. I want them to explore more. I want more love interest. Felicia Hardy would be amazing. Bring in Black Cat so we can see that conflict between MJ, since she's like, I'm not in love with Peter anymore because I don't know him. Maybe they're building their friendship, but then like Felicia Hardy comes into play, or even Gwen Stacy maybe, I don't know. And then she's finding that conflict, and she's getting jealous. I think there'll be good drama they can do there. Maybe we'll finally get the Osborns, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Oscorp. I don't know. Again, I'm really hoping Kingpin comes back into play. Maybe at the end of, like I said, a Secret Wars, he has the symbiote too. So how is he going to balance having the symbiote with him? Like, there's just so much more to be told. Again, the Rogues Gallery for Spider-Man is huge. Probably my second favorite Rogues Gallery, right there by Batman. They're almost neck and neck. Just depends on what's going on. But we'll see. I think we'll have more classic Spider-Man stuff. So, final thoughts. Like I said, man, like this, I think the only criticism I can honestly give with this film, if I really wanted to be nitpicky, is that it doesn't really have a singular iconic villain. But like I already said, I'm okay with it. I think this movie needed to happen so we can get the story they're trying to tell, so we can get the Spider-Man that we really needed. So I think overall the film did a great job with it. It didn't need a big bad villain or anything. I think what they did was fantastic. It was Peter Parker becoming Spider-Man. So now I'm going to give you guys my actual review. 1 out of 10 being the best, 10 being the best, 1 being crap. I am going to give this a 10 out of 10. Hands down. This is for sure my favorite Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. And honestly, it may be my favorite live-action Spider-Man film ever made. I'm going to have to rank them. That is something I'm still working on, excluding the animated, so not the Spider-Verse movies. I'm not including, everyone keeps including, every ranking I've seen so far, they keep including the Spider-Verse movies. I'm not going to, because as of right now, for one, they're animated, and they're not necessarily fully in it. Even though I know that Into the Spider-Verse has the clips of Andrew Garfield and stuff, I'm still kind of keeping them separate. I'm just looking at live action only. And honestly, right now, it's this Brand New Day and Spider-Man 2 are like battling for number 1 spot. So I'll give you that. All the other ones, I'll have to find a place for them. But this movie was phenomenal. And, for years, we've watched Tom Holland try to become an Avenger, try to be that. And in Brand New Day, we finally got to see him as Spider-Man. So Share your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on what you feel about the film. Any discussions you want to have, come on, let me know. Break it down in the comments within the podcast or reach me at the socials. That'd be great. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope you guys really enjoyed Spider-Man Brand New Day. And more to come. Definitely more to come. I think Marvel is slowly making a comeback, and I'm excited for it. So definitely more to come. Until next time, this has been Sigma Duocast. I have been Rick, and I'll see you.